It was 11:42 at night and I was still awake staring at a spreadsheet. Then my phone lit up. A fraud alert, $12,000 charged to my emergency platinum card at a luxury resort in Tulum. I froze, but before I could call the bank, a text popped up from my mother. "Don't freak out," she wrote. "Taylor really needed this trip for her brand. Consider it a gift. It is not like you go anywhere or spend money on anything anyway." Then came the photo. My sister Taylor sipping a margarita, with the caption "Manifesting Abundance." Before I tell you what I did next, drop a comment. Where are you listening from and what time is it for you right now? I love seeing how global this community is. I sat there in the dark of my Austin apartment. The only light came from the blue glow of my phone screen, illuminating the notification I had just triggered by hitting decline on the fraud alert. Transaction denied. The silence in the room was heavy, but my mind was loud. It was racing through the ledger of the last 12 months, tallying up a debt that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with my own eraser. It had been exactly 1 year since I moved back. My father called it a layoff. In reality, it was a refusal to adapt. He would not learn the new software his company adopted, so they let him go. But they did not tell me that part at first. They just said they were drowning. They said they needed me. So, like the beautiful daughter I was trained to be, I packed up my life and came back to save them. I became the invisible banker. Every first of the month, $3,600. Left my account and went directly to their mortgage provider. That was half my salary as a user experience designer. The other half went to utilities, groceries, and the debt they had already acred before I arrived. I paid the water bill so my mother could take our long baths. I paid the electric bill so Taylor could run her ring lights 24/7. And where did I sleep? In my childhood bedroom on a twin mattress that hurt my back. Why? Because Taylor, my 26-year-old sister, needed the guest suite. She needed the natural light for her content creation. She needed a studio to film her lifestyle videos about abundance and manifestation. I was paying the mortgage on a 4-bedroom house, and I was relegated to the smallest room like a servant in my own investment. The sensory details of my life, there were a study in contrasts. The hallway smelled like sandalwood and expensive vanilla $60 candles Taylor bought with money she claimed she did not have. Meanwhile, I ate instant ramen in my room with the door closed so I would not disturb her filming. I cooked dinner for 4 people every night, and half the time the plates were left in the sink with the food cold and untouched because they decided to order takeout without asking if I wanted anything. 2 weeks ago, I tried to bring up the rising property taxes at dinner. My mother, Lisa, just laughed. It was not a warm laugh. It was a sharp, dismissive sound that made my skin prickle. She told me I was obsessed with money. She said I needed to vibrate higher like Taylor. My father, David, chimed in saying I should be grateful. They allowed me to live there, allowed me as if I were a squatter, not the financial pillar holding the roof up. At the time it hurt, but sitting in the dark tonight I finally understood the mechanism behind that laughter. It was not just meanness, it was a psychological necessity. If they admitted that their quiet, boring daughter was the only reason they still had a home, their entire self-image would collapse. They had to devalue me. They had to treat me like a utility, an appliance that just hummed in the background. Because if they saw me as a person, they would have to see themselves as parasites. They normalized the cruelty to survive their own failure. I looked at the photo of Taylor again, manifesting abundance. They thought I was an infinite resource. They thought I would never break because I never had. But tonight the math had changed. I was not their daughter anymore. I was a creditor, and it was time to liquidate the asset. I stared at the pixelated image of my sister holding that margarita, manifesting abundance. It was such a perfect, cruel joke. For a long time I sat in the silence waiting for the familiar wave of panic to hit me, the panic that usually whispered, "Fix this, transfer more money, smooth it over." But tonight the panic did not come. Instead, I felt a quiet, distinct click in my chest, like a breaker tripping in an overloaded circuit. The lights went out on my empathy. For years I had been bound by what I now recognized as the invisible chain of the survivor. It is a specific kind of trap, designed for the responsible child. You convince yourself that you are the only thing standing between your family and total ruin. You believe that if you stop pedaling, the bike falls over and everyone gets hurt. You tell yourself that your strength is a duty, not a choice. I stayed in that house paying that mortgage, eating that ramen because I was terrified that without me they would crumble. I thought I was holding them up, but staring at that fraud alert, I realized the truth. I was not holding them up, I was holding them back. My support was not a lifeline, it was an anesthetic. As long as I paid the bills, they never had to feel the cold draft of reality. As long as I fixed their mistakes, they never had to learn from them. The chain around my neck was not keeping them safe. It was just choking me. And tonight I decided to stop breathing for them. If they wanted to manifest abundance, they were going to have to do it without my credit score. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I rarely used this late at night. San Antonio area code. It rang once. "It is time," I said. Grandma Alina did not ask why. She did not ask for details. She had been watching this slow-motion train wreck for years from her bakery 3 hours away. She knew exactly what that fraud alert meant because she knew exactly who her son and granddaughter were. "Do it," she said. Her voice was gravel and steel. "Burn it down, Jennifer." I hung up. Then I opened my laptop. I did not go to a bank. I did not call a lawyer. I went to a real estate investment portal. 6 months ago, when I refinanced the deed into my name solely to stop my father from taking out a second mortgage against my equity, I had received a standing cash offer from an institutional investor. It was a predatory offer slightly below market value, but it came with one specific clause that I needed right now: a 14-day closing window, cash in hand, no inspections required. I had kept the offer in my inbox as a dark fantasy, a contingency plan I never thought I would use. Now it was a weapon. I logged in. The offer was still active, valid for 48 more hours. I moved the cursor over the accept button. My hand did not shake. I did not feel a pang of nostalgia for the house where I grew up or the room where I was currently sleeping. That house was not a home. It was a vampire. I clicked accept. The digital documents populated the screen instantly. I scrolled through the legal ease, the transfer of title, the vacancy requirements. I signed my initials, JM, then I signed my full name, Jennifer Martinez. The screen flashed a confirmation, pending processing. It was 2:00 in the morning. I sat back in my chair, the blue light washing over my face. I had just made my parents and my sister homeless with the click of a mouse. And for the first time in my life, I finally felt like I could sleep. The next day at noon, my phone rang. It was a FaceTime request from Taylor. I let it ring for a moment, staring at her name on the screen, feeling the old instinct to fix it bubble up in my throat. But I swallowed it down. I answered. The screen filled with Taylor's face, flushed and furious. The background was bright blue sky and white sand, a stark contrast to my dim apartment. "Why's the card declined?" she snapped. No hello, no apology, just rage. Mom was hovering behind her, holding a mimosa, her face already slack with midday cocktails. Jennifer stopped being petty. My mother slurred. "Taylor is trying to pay for a salt scrub and it is embarrassing. Unblock the card right now." I looked at them, really looked at them. My sister, the 26-year-old toddler, my mother, the enabler who had turned her into a monster. They were thousands of miles away, living a fantasy on my dime, demanding I keep the illusion alive. I picked up my iPad. I had the Realtor portal open, the final confirmation screen glowing. "I did not unblock the card," I said. My voice was calm. It sounded like someone else's voice. "What?" Taylor screeched. "I need to pay for this." "You are going to need to pay for a lot more than a salt scrub," I said. I turned the iPad around so the camera could see the screen. The word sold was stamped across the listing photo of our house in bold red letters. "I sold the house," I said. Taylor froze. Mom squinted at the screen, trying to focus. "What does that mean?" Mom asked, her voice trembling. "It means the new owners take possession in 14 days, I said. "It means you have nowhere to come back to." "You cannot do that," Taylor yelled, her face contorting. "That is our house," Dad co-signed. Dad co-signed the original mortgage 3 years ago. I corrected her. "I refinanced 6 months ago. The deed is in my name solely. The mortgage is in my name solely. Legally you are guests, and as the owner I am evicting you." My father appeared in the frame, then pushing past my mother. He looked sunburned and confused. "There is nothing to fix, Dad," I said. "You do not have a home anymore. I sold it to an investor. They are going to flip it. They want it empty in 2 weeks. So if you want to save any of your things, I suggest you figure out how to pay for your own flight home, because I am done paying for everything." "Jennifer, please." My mother started crying now, the mimosa splashing onto her hand. "We have no money. How are we supposed to get back?" "Figure it out," I said, "just like you told me to figure out my tuition. Just like you told me to figure out my car repairs. You are adults. Manifest a plane ticket." I hung up. The silence that followed was heavy, but it was not empty. It was full of oxygen. I took a deep breath, and for the first time in years, my chest expanded all the way. 2 days later, my family returned. They did not have keys. Of course, I had changed the locks the morning I listed the house, so I met them on the front lawn. They looked like refugees from a luxury catalogue gone wrong. Taylor's designer luggage was scuffed. Her tan looked orange in the harsh Texas sun, and my parents were wearing wrinkled linen that smelled like stale airport air. They did not scream. They were too exhausted for that. They just stood. They're staring at the sold sign as if waiting for me to tell them it was a prank. Where are we supposed to go? My mother asked. Her voice was thin, stripped of all its usual condescension. I did not answer immediately. Instead, I walked past them into the garage. I hit the button for the bay door and it rumbled open, revealing the chaos of their lives packed into cardboard boxes. But there was something else. Tucked behind a stack of Taylor's ring lights and backdrop screens, I had found plastic bin. It was grey, dusty, and shoved so far into the corner, it was clearly meant to be forgotten. I pulled it out and popped the lid. Inside were stacks of envelopes, unopened red stamps, final notice, collections. I pulled one out and held it up. $40,000, I said, that is the total on just 3 of these cards. My father flinched. My mother looked at the ground. Taylor, for the first time, looked scared. I thought you were broke because of the layoff, I said, my voice steady. I thought we were struggling because the economy was bad, but that was not it. Was it? I looked at Taylor. You did not just steal my card last week. You have been using their cards for years, and they let you. They hid the debt. They hid the notices. They let me pay the mortgage and buy the groceries and cover the utilities, thinking I was saving the family while they were secretly financing your influencer lifestyle on credit they could not afford. It was not for me, Taylor cried, but her voice cracked. It was for the brand. I was going to pay them back once I got sponsorships. Sponsorships, I repeated. You have 3,000 followers, Taylor. Most of them are bots. You are not a brand. You are a financial parasite. I turned to my parents. And you, I said, you created this. You are so afraid of hurting her feelings, so afraid of telling her no that you let her bury you. You sacrificed my future to protect her ego. This is what sociologists call the golden child bankruptcy. It is not just about money. It is about over-nurturing. You shielded her from reality so completely that you rendered her incapable of survival. You did not raise an adult. You raised a consumer, and eventually the consumer ate the host. My father sat down on a box, putting his head in his hands. We did not know how to stop it, he whispered. Well, I said, I stopped it for you. I pointed to my car parked in the driveway. The new owners take possession at 5:00 p.m. You have 2 choices. You can stay here and explain to the sheriff why you are trespassing, or you can get in the car. Grandma Elena is expecting you. San Antonio, Taylor gasped. But that is a bakery. It is industrial. Yes, I said, and the shift starts at 4:00 a.m. Get in the car. The drive to San Antonio took 3 hours. It was the quietest family road trip in history. My father stared out the window, watching the Texas hill country roll by like a man being driven to his execution. My mother fell asleep, or pretended to, clutching her purse like it was the last remnant of her dignity. Taylor sat in the back seat, thumbs hovering over her phone screen. But she did not post anything. For the first time in her life she had no content. Reality had finally become too ugly to filter. We pulled up to Elena's Imperial Bakery just as the sun was setting. If the name sounds regal, the reality is not. It is not a cute storefront with pastel cupcakes and espresso machines. It is an industrial production facility in a warehouse district. It smells of yeast diesel and intense, relentless heat. It supplies bread to half the restaurants in the state, and it runs 24 hours a day. Grandma Elena was waiting on the loading dock. She was 72 years old, 5'2" tall, and she looked like a general inspecting fresh recruits. She wore a white baker's coat stained with flour and heavy non-slip work boots. Get out, she said. My parents climbed out of the car, stiff and wrinkled. Taylor followed, dragging her luxury suitcase through the gravel dust. Mom, my father started, his voice cracking. We do not have anywhere else to go. I know, Elena said. Jennifer told me everything. You are broke, you are homeless, and you are useless. She turned and pointed a flour-dusted finger at the metal staircase clinging to the side of the warehouse. There is a 2-bedroom apartment up there. It has running water, a stove, and 4 beds. It is rent-free. My mother let out a small sob of relief. Oh, thank God, thank you, Elena, I am not finished. Elena snapped. It is rent-free because you are going to work for it. She looked at Taylor. You the one with the phone, give it here. What? Taylor recoiled, clutching her device to her chest. No, I need this for my work. Your work is kneading sourdough, Ilana said, and phones are a health code violation. Drop it in the bucket or sleep in the street. Taylor looked at me, her eyes wide with panic. I just leaned against my car and crossed my arms. I was not the savior anymore, I was just the driver. Trembling, Taylor dropped her phone into the plastic bin by the door. Good, Ilana said. Shift starts at 4:00 a.m. sharp. David, you are on delivery loading. Lisa, you are on dishwashing and prep. Taylor, you are on the kneading line, and do not think about slacking off. My floor managers have instructions to fire you if you are late, and if you get fired you get evicted. But 4:00 a.m. Taylor whispered, that is the middle of the night. That is when the bread gets made, Elena said. Welcome to the real world. She turned to me, her expression softening just a fraction. You did good, Jennifer. Go home, drive safe. I watched them for a moment longer. My mother, who refused to lift a finger at home, staring at the grease-stained industrial dishwasher she would have to conquer. My father, who thought he was too good to learn new software, looking at the heavy crates he would have to haul. And Taylor, the golden child, realizing that her manicure was about to be destroyed by 50 pounds of raw dough. I got back in my car. I did not say goodbye. I just put the car in reverse and backed away from the loading dock. As I turned onto the highway heading back toward Austin, I waited for the guilt to hit me. I waited to feel bad about leaving my family in a warehouse to do manual labor, but the guilt did not come. Instead, I turned on the radio, rolled down the windows, and let the warm Texas air fill the car. It was not cruelty, it was consequences. And for the first time, I was not paying for them. 6 months later, I drove back to San Antonio. It was August, and the Texas heat was a physical weight pressing down on the asphalt. I parked in the same spot where I had dropped them off, next to the loading dock. But this time, I did not just drive away. I turned off the engine and walked inside. The smell hit me first. Yeast, caramelized sugar, and the sharp tang of industrial cleaner. The noise was a rhythmic clamor of mixers and oven doors. I stood in the shadow of a pallet of flour sacks just watching. My father was there loading crates onto a delivery truck. He had lost the soft punch of his suburban life. His arms were corded with muscle, his skin tanned, not from a vacation but from loading docks. He was moving with a purpose I had not seen in 20 years. He was not the executive who refused to learn new software anymore. He was a man getting a job done. My mother was at the stainless steel prep table scouring baking sheets. Her hair was tied back in a hayat, her hands red and chapped. She was not complaining. And then there was Taylor. She was at the kneading station wrestling with a massive mound of sourdough. She was not wearing makeup. Her nails were short and unpolished. She looked exhausted. There were dark circles under her eyes that no filter could hide. But she also looked solid, real. She was not posing, she was working. She looked up and saw me. For a second I expected the old sneer, the entitlement, but she just wiped her forehead with the back of her wrist and walked over. She reached into the pocket of her apron and pulled out a white envelope. It was crumpled and stained with a thumbprint of flour. $500, she said. Her voice was raspy. I looked at the envelope. It is not much, she said, but I picked up extra shifts on the delivery run. It is real money, Jennifer, not credit. I took the envelope. It felt heavier than the thousands I had transferred to them over the years. This was not guilt, it was labor money. It was the first honest dollar she had ever given me. Keep going, I said. Then she turned around and went back to the dough. Grandma Elena called me into her office a few minutes later. It was the only air-conditioned room in the building, a glass box overlooking the production floor. She sat behind a desk cluttered with invoices and production schedules. How do they look? She asked. Tired, I said. Good, she nodded. Tired is good. Tired keeps you honest. She opened a drawer and pulled out a checkbook. She wrote with a steady hand toward the slip and slid it across the desk to me. $60,000. I stared at the number. What is this? I asked. The profit from the house sale, she said. After the mortgage was paid off and the fees were covered, this is what was left. I put it in a high-yield account for you 6 months ago. It is yours. You paid for that house, Jennifer. You saved it from foreclosure. And by selling it, you saved them from themselves. I tried to push it back. Grandma, I cannot take it, she ordered. You are the only one in this family with the sense to use it right. Buy your own place, something with your name on the deed, something nobody can take from you. I looked down at the check, then out the window at my family working on the floor below. They were sweating. They were struggling, but they were surviving. I had not destroyed them. I had just forced them to live in the real world. I took the check. You saved them by stopping them. Elena said quietly, never forget that. I drove back to Austin that night with the check for $60,000 sitting on the passenger seat. It did not feel like money. It felt like permission. A month later, I used it to close on a condo downtown. It is not a house. It does not have a guest suite for filming content or a garage for hiding secret debt. It is a one-bedroom unit on the 20th floor with floor-to-ceiling windows, and the deed has exactly one name on it, mine. Tonight I am sitting on my balcony. I am drinking a glass of $12 wine, not because I have to, but because I like it. The city lights of Austin are spread out below me, a grid of gold and white humming with life. It is quiet here. There are no ring lights clicking on at odd hours. No passive-aggressive comments about needing to vibrate higher. No demands for money I earned to pay for lives I did not choose. Some people might say what I did was selfish. My mother certainly did in those first few weeks of shock. They might say I abandoned my family when they were down, but looking out at the skyline, I realized something important about that word. Selfishness is often just a label used by parasites when the host finally decides to keep its own blood. I did not abandon them. I evicted the version of myself that existed only to serve them. I cut the chain, and in doing so I forced them to find their own feet. They are tired. They are sore, and they are working harder than they ever have in their lives. But they are alive, and for the first time they are real. I took a sip of wine and leaned back against the cool metal railing. It turns out the price of a good vacation was not $12,000. It was everything, and it was worth every penny. If you have ever had to be the bad guy to save yourself, share this story and tell me in the comments what was the moment you finally said enough. Don't forget to follow for more stories about breaking free. Thanks for watching. God bless you.